Alright, Terrence Pop here with another episode from the Lair. And today I've got one hell of a story for you guys. And you guys are going to laugh your goddamn balls off. And I call this story Feud from Hell. So, I get to the Ranger Battalion. I'm an E4. They put me up in a lower enlisted room. You know, they give me a bunk, nothing big, you know, I'm going through the deal. And usually I would, I'd be there for first call, do PT, hang out during the day, and we'd get released at the end of the day. I'm out the window to the fucking drain pipe down in my car. I'm gone, because I don't want people fucking with me. So I don't really think anything of it. So as time goes by, you know, they fuck with me a little bit. They just get used to me being there, so I start spending more time in the barracks. And in this particular room, now the guys I was living with, okay, one of them went to the Special Forces on the West Coast. I went to the Special Forces on the East Coast. One of the other roommates stayed in the Army and retired, I think, in E8 after like 22 or 24 years. And the other roommate became a sergeant major at CAG. All right, not going to use any of their names. Now, the two main people involved in this feud, I'm going to refer to them as the buff boy, blonde-haired guy, buff from California, and the Greek. Okay, the Greek, skinny guy, little on the not-so-witty side, second generation. So he was born here, but his parents weren't, and there was a little bit of a culture handicap. Okay, the Greek guy came from the Midwest, East Coast, and Buff Boy, California. So, I didn't really, they would bicker and swear at each other, and it didn't really go anywhere. And I didn't really know the depth that this feud was going to undertake until one Saturday afternoon. I am at my desk, and two guys shared a desk, and the Greek was sitting next to me. And we were talking, I don't remember what we were talking about, but the buff motherfucker comes in, you know, all scary and intimidating, I guess. And he's talking like mad trash to the Greek. Now, without missing a beat, the Greek is like, oh, yeah, okay. Reaches into the desk, opens the drawer, pulls out a can of Mace. Now, this isn't like old, like new school Mace that has like the cone of, you know, that sprays a nice cone. It was like this concentrated fucking liquid. He just turns around and like sprays him in the face. And I'm the guy's like, it's like going across his face and eyes. He's like, ah, ah, ah. He's on the ground rolling around. And I'm at a loss. And I'm like, holy shit. And now the other roommate is reading a book and he just looks up. He's like, okay. Like this is a common fucking thing. A common fucking thing. You know, every now and again they would have a fist fight, and the Greek would get fucking trounced because he only weighed like $140. You know, and I kind of fell in to help the Greek a little bit because he was the underdog, and it kind of wasn't fair. All right, it just wasn't fair. So if there was going to be, you know, if this was going to continue, I didn't want to see the Greek just get his head kicked in all the time. So I helped him out a little bit with some, you know, intel information, you know, and ideas, of course, you know. That's just the way it is. So we do the Panama invasion, the whole fucking deal. And the Greek, you know, he went home on leave for shortly thereafter, he went home on leave. They had block leave after, I don't remember what it was. And his family didn't really understand how the whole thing worked. And they released an article to one of the local papers in the major city where he lived, which I won't say, about how he was some scuba Delta Force sniper, crazy badass. You know, it was so embarrassing that when I read this article, he showed it to me, I was sweating. And I said, look, man, this needs to be destroyed. Burn this now before it gets out. You're going to get fucked over. No, it'll be fine. I'll keep it locked up in my wall locker. I'm like, all right, dude. I straight up warned you. Don't listen to me at your peril. That's fine. I'm only an evil fucking genius. Okay? Got it. He leaves. No more than 15 minutes goes by. Buff Boy walks in with the fire axe, knocks the lock off of his locker, digs through there, takes it, leaves. And apparently he went down and made copies, like 150 fucking copies, and distributed them all over the battalion, put them on people's fucking car windshields, posted them at the fucking chow hall. He was a laughing stock, just a laughing stock. It was bad. It was bad. And the only way he got off the hook is he had to explain to the battalion commander and the sergeant major that his parents really don't speak good English, and he told them what was going on, and perhaps they didn't understand, and the reporter just ran with it. So he got a pass because the chain of command's like, he's a good guy. Yeah, it's not like him to do this. It's got to be some kind of crazy fucking Greek kind of thing going on. Okay, he got off on that one. So we have another, this is a battalion IG inspection. We have the battalion commander and the sergeant major coming through. And this is Sergeant Major Leon Guerrero. So I come into the room in the morning, and Benchwell has got like this box of porn mags, and he's like going through them, just like gangbusters. And I'm like, dude, we got an inspection like in an hour. You don't want that porn laying around. I mean, how's that gonna look? He's like, oh, okay, and just keeps doing what he's doing. And I'm like, okay, well, he doesn't work for me. I'm not in charge of him. If he wants to do that, fine. Little did I know that he had found this little black and white picture of a dude holding like his 18-inch fucking cock. And it was the exact same size as the family portrait he had on his desk, which had the grandfather on one side, the grandmother on the other, and then all of the children and grandchildren in between. There was like maybe 25, 30 of these people. So he takes it apart, puts the picture of this dude holding his cock right next to his grandmother, right next to her, puts it back together perfectly, right? And then puts it up on the desk. I'm like, what the fuck? So like literally, the battalion commander comes in there, the sergeant major is in there. He's asking some questions, he has to see a piece of gear here and there. He walks up there and he's like, oh, this is your family. Oh yeah, he looks at it, puts it down, and then promptly walks out. We didn't think anything of it. About a minute later, Sergeant Major comes in there, does the usual, rip up a guy's bed, and looking at some stuff, looks at the fucking picture. That's your family picture. Yeah. And then leave. We're trying not to laugh. All right. We really kept a fucking lid on it the whole fucking time. The Greek didn't even notice this because he kind of running on 6 cylinders instead of 8. He didn't notice that the picture had been tampered with until like 2 weeks later when everybody had come by and looked at it. It literally looked so good. It looked like there was a professional black and white photo taken of this entire extended Greek family, and one of them was a porn star standing next to the grandmother. Classic. It doesn't get better than that. I had to give the buff guy a high five. I'm like, that is phenomenal. That is a 9 out of 10 on execution and a 10 out of 10 out of funny. That is fucking good in anybody's book. Perfect, flawless victory. You got that one. So, lo and behold, Buff Boy decides, right before Black leave, everyone drinks for the most part. But the unwritten rule is no matter how drunk you get, you're gonna make your flight. So he fucking drinks all day, all night, passes out, is vomiting. We drag him, we leave him in the latrine because, he's spewing things, and it's easier to clean up the hose when it's all over. Well, one of the other Rangers takes pity on him, as he's covered in vomit. They strip him down, they drag him in the shower, and they're washing him. Well, somebody took a picture at a very inopportune moment where basically you see the Buff Boy, he's semi-conscious, and he's looking up at the camera, naked as the day is long, with somebody standing behind him holding onto his hips, and the guy standing behind him, you can only see him from the bottom of the chin down. And lo and behold, whose disposable camera got used for this? The Greeks. We don't think anything of it. I have a car. So this is about 3 or 4 weeks later. We get back, we go to the field, we come back, and the Greek is like, hey, run me down the PX. I gotta develop this film. I got some pictures I want to send home. So I'm like, okay, not a problem. So we go down there and we're looking through the pictures, and there's a picture of Buff Boy throwing up into the air. I mean, it's a huge cloud of vomit, which was kind of shocking at first. And then there's this picture. And I'm like, oh, God, no. So by this time, the Buff Boy had transferred out of the battalion and took a position, somewhere else because he was going to ETS. I don't remember what unit it was, which is cool because I think he had like 13 months left and he was nursing an injury that wasn't going to heal right. I'm like, if you take this picture and you mail it to that Seattle fag rag, the dating section of the classifieds, and you put his name and address on there, that'll be pretty amusing. And then you get a copy of that and you mail it to his father, who was, a Vietnam, veteran who was very well decorated. And I didn't think he was going to do it, because he was like, oh, no, that's over the top. And I'm like, okay, it's just a suggestion. You don't have to, it's not mandatory. Well, apparently he fucking did it. So not only did he do that, and he got like 15 or 16 copies of this fucking newspaper, made copies of the one fucking picture in the page, went to his new unit and distributed it all fucking over the place. Kind of like what happened to him earlier, and mailed a copy to his father because they still had his address. And, it is what it is. So this is about a week later. We're all in the day room, and we hear this car, and we look out there, and we see the Buff Boy come out with his 12 gauge. He's like, I'm gonna kill you, Greg. And we're like, oh shit. So we ran down there, had to tackle him and talk him down, and we took the gun away from him, and he fucking deed him out, and we kind of diffused that whole thing. But turnabout is fair play. You're gonna humiliate somebody in front of all of his friends and peers. It's only fair that shit happened to you too. All right, because I'm all about fair play. And there's one other story that goes with the Feud from Hell, and I should have put this in fucking earlier, but they went to Ranger school before me. The Buff Boy used to have a knife in one of these like airtight containers. It was his father's that his father carried in Vietnam, and it was on his desk, and it was his deal. And they couldn't send these two guys to Ranger school at the same time because they just adamantly hated each other. So the buff guy went first. He went like 1 month before the other guy. So, he comes in there, locks his locker, bans his locker. They do the inventories, make sure everything's secured, shakes all their hands. We watch him leave. We see his cab going to the fucking airport. And as soon as the cab turned right to go out of the fucking Ranger Battalion area, the Greek walks up, takes the top off of the fucking knife, takes the knife, plunges it into peanut butter, and starts making peanut butter sandwiches, and then puts it right back with all of the peanut butter still on it, and puts the lid back on it, and fucking eats the sandwich. And I'm like, that's kind of fucked up, but it's kind of funny. So I don't say nothing. I don't fucking clean it up. I just let it be because it's their fucking deal. I had nothing to do with that. So he gets back from Ranger school, I think 3 months later, and walks in, cuts the band off his locker, walks over the desk, and then sees this knife, which now has this ball of moldy fur growing on it. And he fucking flips out, goes crazy, cleans it up, mad as hell. So, the Greek didn't come back from Ranger school until like 3 weeks later. So literally, within minutes of returning, fist fight. I mean, it was a knockdown, drag-out fist fight. They had to break it up. And then by this time, they were both getting promoted to E5, and then they got kind of separated at that point. But I don't know if that feud still went on. I heard it went on for quite a while, and But, you know, you'd figure you go to combat with somebody, you do your deal, you'd get over the fucking, that kind of animosity, but, you know, I guess it didn't stick, but what are you going to do? Now, I purposely, you know, took their names out of the stories, and there's a couple of their gross, sick details that I didn't put in there, because I don't want to invade their privacy too much, because it was a feud, and this isn't like practical joke war fucking around kind of thing. This is when somebody shows up with a shotgun and it's going to punch your ticket forever. There's a little bit of privacy that needs to be, exercised in that regard. So please don't hold that against me. And you guys have a good evening.